Well, it is a picture-perfect day here in Melbourne. The state that very often provides with 4 seasons in a day has given us the perfect conditions for football here this afternoon. Welcome along then, everybody, to the iconic Lakeside Stadium, home to South Melbourne, where they take on Brunswick Juventus in the last match of Round 5 in the NPL women's season. Good afternoon, everybody. Stefan Georgic with you as we get set for this clash between the top of the table, South Melbourne, and the bottom of the table, Brunswick Juventus. South Melbourne, they are right up at the top of the table, sitting with 10 points, 3 wins and 1 draw. They have suffered their only draw back in round 1 against the Bentley Greens, which ended in 1-1. However, ever since that draw, they have gone on a 3-game tear, winning the past 3 matches in very convincing fashion. No one at the moment has found an answer for this South Melbourne squad, who are yet to taste a loss this season. And this afternoon, they face off against the 11th place Brunswick Juventus, who have gone 1 win and 3 losses. They have been struggling so far this season, coming into this matchup as being ranked the worst offense in the competition so far. They've suffered 3 losses thus far in their season, only tasting the feeling of victory once, which came last week with their 3-0 victory over FV Academy. Can they use that win for momentum into this matchup? Could they do the unthinkable and knock off the top of the table undefeated South Melbourne? Everyone loves an underdog story, but we'll have to wait and see. Looking into the lineups for this clash, no changes for both teams heading into this bout here today. Both lineups remain the same from their matchups last week. Looking into South Melbourne's lineup, number 1 is Cristina Esposito, my apologies. She is the goalkeeper. Number 2, Bridie Cooling. Number 7, the captain, Francesca Iamano. Number 8, Akisha Sandhu. Number 9, Olivia Bomford. Number 10, Raquel Dolaris. Number 14, Misha Westland. Number 16, Nikki Furukawa. Number 18, Mami Ambo. Number 20, Alana Byrne. And number 21, Tiffany Eliadis. That rounds out the South Melbourne squad. Looking ahead to Brunswick Juventus, number 1, Peyton Woodward. She will start in goal. Number 4, Navleen Kerr. Number 8, Sienna Coppola. Number 10, Samara Rexapi. Number 11, Diana McKenzie. Number 12, Alyssa Smith. Number 13, Eden McCowan. Number 15, Nainama Shishido. Number 16, Natalie Grima. Number 17, Layla Butler. And number 23, the captain of Brunswick Juventus, Nathalie Chia. Our referee for this matchup here today is Courtney Van Dyson. Looking forward to this matchup here today. As you can see, it is a beautiful day here at Lakeside Stadium in the shadows of Melbourne City itself. 30 degrees here at the moment. It'll be a hot one. So if you're at home right now, I suggest you sit down on the sofa, grab a beer, and this should be a good one between these two teams. We are just about all set for proceedings here between both these two sides, as we're just waiting a little bit here for the kickoff. Just waiting here for Corny Van Dyson to give the whistle for the all okay. Players are ready. Raquel Dolaris and Sandhu doing a little bit of jumping right now. Same too with Mami Ambo, getting their blood and energy ready for this matchup. We're just waiting up actually on the Brunswick Juventus bench there. I think one of their players didn't think she was starting, and now she comes on ready to go. $30 degrees here, as I mentioned, is the temperature. It is going to be a hot one out there today. The hottest day recorded in Melbourne here so far this week. So, we are underway for football here at Lakeside Stadium. And early on here, Brunswick are going to look to try and start off their game hot. Last week, they started off incredibly well in the match of the round against the 2024 champions in Heidelberg United. Absolutely roasted them last week, 5-1. The match was basically over at the 16-minute mark in the first half, and ended up scoring 3 goals on the trot. What can they do in this matchup here today? Cooling. Back off to Byrne. They're just going to find their footing here in this matchup slowly. This should be an interesting matchup. As I said before, Brunswick Juventus, the worst ranked offense in the league. And it is going to be something that South Melbourne are going to look to try and exploit here early on. As a shot from Westland. What on earth? It hasn't even been a minute. And Westland lets one rip. That's one way to kick off this matchup. Her 5th goal. And she's going to tie her teammate Nikki Furukawa with 5 goals in the season thus far. What a start for South Melbourne. And it doesn't get any better than that. Just when I mentioned that South Melbourne, they started off strongly last week. They had the first goal in the first opening 2 minutes against Heidelberg. They show up right now and in a big way. And Misha Westland proving how strong this South Melbourne team is. Just lets one rip, and that one is in a catch. Brunswick Juventus offside. She was all in open space. Didn't have any defense or any pressure on her at all. So that one's going to sting if you're Brunswick Juventus. And if you're the coach, you're already shaking your head. We just started this match. How have they already gotten one on the goal? And that one is going to leave a mark early on in the opening bit of proceedings here. We haven't even ticked over 5 minutes yet. This should be a big one. Here's Westland again, right on cue. Ball working its way to Sandhu. This is a very, very new South Melbourne team. A lot of signings that they made in the off-season, coming into this season. And boy, has it paid off. Here we got a nice little through ball coming forwards there. It was a nice one for Rex Heppy, but she couldn't get there in time. She was bombarded with South Melbourne players. As I was mentioning before, this South Melbourne team at the moment is head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. They played Alamein in round 3, who are currently second on the table, and got a very convincing win against them 3-0. And then last week, as I mentioned before, the match of the round, taking on Heidelberg United in the derby, ended up 5-1. 3 goals in the first half, walked away with 2 goals in the second. That was the match of the round, as I just mentioned. And boy, did South Melbourne show up. Here we got a little bit of an early on showing. Rummel was trying to go for a through ball there, trying to get forwards. It's actually Anastasia Rummel who's actually making the start instead. That was who we're waiting on. So she's out there playing at the moment. Ball on that far side, directly right in front of the substitutions bench of South Melbourne. And it'll be out of play, and it'll still be Brunswick's ball. We might have an opportunity here for Brunswick. Going to try and fire one back. She's going to cross it in. Tried to go again to Ramel, who was inside the box. Would have been a great passage of play, but just couldn't quite stick the cross as it was fended off by the South Melbourne defence. And here we have, again, Brunswick Juventus. Look to try and push up forwards. Again, pushed up forwards is Mackenzie and Rexapi, who are caught up in that little section on the far side, right of the corner position. And we're going to have another throw in for Brunswick. Here's Ramel. And that time, it'll be South Melbourne's ball. It is a glorious day here in Melbourne. The sun has really turned it up, the weather. Normally, as I mentioned in the intro, we often get 4 seasons in a day. However, hopefully we can keep this scenery here, because this is just the entree for the main to come after this. Kicking off at 5 p.m. South Melbourne taking on Heidelberg United in the men's competition. That will be one to watch. The derby that happened last week for the women's is going to happen with the men's. Santu gives it a boot forwards to the direction of Furukawa. And it's just a little bit swayed to the right. As I mentioned, it will be an absolute cracker here today. So make sure to park yourself on your sofa at home. Grab a beer, as I mentioned, because it should be a good one. A missed kick goes to Furukawa. Raquel Delaris, she's inside, just slipped up with the ball. It was McCowan who managed to kick it away and stop that potential goal from happening from South Melbourne. And that's the first major real slip-up from goal that's happened from Brunswick. Could we see more unfold here today? You definitely don't want that to happen from a goal kick. Go straight into the opposition's legs. Here's Delaris, just going to kick it out. And instead it was actually Brunswick's kick out. So we're going to have the first corner here of the day going to South Melbourne. So South Melbourne waiting up for this corner. Both hands go up in the air. Ball is up. Couldn't quite get there in time. It was headed away. Ball came in again. South Melbourne, with all the pressure in the world at the moment, cooling. They're just going to slow down here at the moment. It is South Melbourne, but this might be defense turned into offense here for Brunswick Juventus. Ball wasn't timed well, the pass from Ramel. And instead it'll be South Melbourne just to slow down the tempo here early on. Gives it a boot forwards to Eliadis. And finds Furukawa. Here is Furukawa, who's sitting on 5 goals thus far this season. She's marching her way. No one can stop her at the moment. Smith can't stop. She's going to turn around and try to take a shot from well beyond the box. An ambitious one, and already South Melbourne just trying to put the pressure on Brunswick Juventus, forcing them into a mistake. And it's showing. Check out the pressure already that they're putting. Wherever you go, there's about 3 South Melbourne players that are putting a lot of pressure on Brunswick Juventus. And you can see why they are the benchmark of the women's competition at the moment here in the NPL Women's. Cooling. Gonna give it a boot off to Ambo. I think she might have directed towards Delaris. Instead it was off Ambo. Gonna try and center it inside, and it'll be an offside ball. And the first offside going the way of South Melbourne. Woodward, and give it a kick forward. She was a little bit of an interesting play there. Kerr was almost trapped with the South Melbourne players. Marching forward slowly here at Brunswick. They can't quite get there in order to keep their ball alive. It'll be out of play. Here's Westland. Kick it off to Byrne. My apologies. Cooling. Just playing around with it in the back line. Here is South Melbourne. Off to Sandu this time, who's wide open here on this near side. Going to look to try and create an opportunity for South Melbourne here. Eliadis going to try and give a bootful from beyond the box. Here's Cooling. Go forwards to Bomford. Back off to Yamano, the captain. There's a nice little touch there from Dolaris to a leading Furukawa. And that one's just going to be kicked out of play. So still South Melbourne's ball here. South Melbourne retaining a lot of the possession here early on in this first half. McCowan gives it a booful up in the air. Bomford couldn't control it. And slowly, there will be Brunswick Juventus who will retain the possession in this one. We have a bit of a clash here early on between Butler and Sandhu. Butler was trying to just get away from Sandhu, but Sandhu absolutely putting all the pressure in the world you would on the back of Butler. Forwards to Furukawa on that far side. Tried to give it the through ball pass off to Bomford. It's a little bit too late to the party for that one to get involved. Ball's up directly under Anastasia Ramel. She was never going to succeed out in that one. She had 3 South Melbourne players, but here instead is Butler, who's one-on-one with Sandhu. Back off to Ramel. Here's Chia, going to cross it in. Couldn't quite manage to cross it in. Her direction was to Mackenzie. Instead, it'll be out of play. But a good, strong bit of signs here so far for Brunswick Juventus. Not holding back after that one early goal from South Melbourne. And now they're trying to put their name on the scoreboard. Throw in, tried to go to the direction of Mackenzie. Instead, it was headed away from Furukawa. And again, we're going to have another out of play. Grima to throw it in for Brunswick Juventus. Surveying her options. Goes to Mackenzie. This time, though, Mackenzie can successfully capture the ball, and it'll be kicked away by Iamano. And again, they're stuck in that corner, Brunswick Juventus, struggling to break out of it. But if you have a look, South Melbourne, they got about 6 players right up in that zone, and they're not giving Brunswick Juventus any breathing space. If they want the ball here, Brunswick, they're going to have to retreat back, because every single time they've gone forwards to Mackenzie, who's been right in the middle of that South Melbourne sandwich, they've always lost the ball, or the ball's been booted out of play, and they've had to redo the sequence of play again. So South Melbourne, you can tell, very well in the defense structure. Butler. Here's Ramel, trying to keep the ball alive. It was Sandhu who gave her a foul. And we got a first free kick coming up here for Brunswick Juventus. So Anastasia Ramel will take this free kick for Brunswick Juventus. This is an opportunity to try and put him back, level pegging, and the ball goes straight into the hands of Esposito. However, the first proper shot that Brunswick Juventus have taken, and it falls right near the 15-minute mark of this one. Speaking of shots, last week Brunswick, they only had the 9 shots against FV Academy in their 3-0 victory. The week before, they only had 3 shots in their 1-0 loss against the Bentley Greens. So Brunswick just struggling on the offensive structure. As I mentioned, the worst ranked offense in the competition. Dolaris, back off to Eliadis, back off again to Dolaris. She's going to try and give it a bit of a toe poke to Bomford. Bomford manages to maintain possession. Eliadis to give it a boot off the post! And try to kick it again was Bomford, and another opportunity from distance for South Melbourne. The first goal came from Westland, who was well outside of the box, and that time hits the post. And that one could have had South Melbourne with a 2-0 lead. And possibly another highlight reel. What a shot there from Eliadis. It was almost perfect, but just clipped the side post. Ball's booted up by Kerr on that far side. And it will be out of play. Is Delaris for South Melbourne. Tried to go to Bomford. Instead, he was picked off by Shishido. Shishido, she's doing the march all the way from one end of the pitch to the other, and she quickly gets the ball lost by Westland, who was the only goal scorer in this match thus far. The first goal within the first minute of the game. Here's Westland again. Try to go to Ramel. Ramel, who's in open air. She's going to give it a boot. Goes straight into the legs. But couldn't. Sorry, I was a wrong player. My apologies. This time it's Ramel going to give it a boot. This time again. And it was close for Rexhepi. And it was actually Butler who was charging in for that possible attacking opportunity. So my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But that was another good opportunity for Brunswick Juventus. And again, Christina Esposito proving why she is such a strong goalkeeper. Christina Esposito, she spent some time playing for Canberra's A-League squad. And now she's out here playing for South Melbourne. Played 16 games for South Melbourne last season in 2024. Eliadis. Back off to Cooling. Cooling in the back line. So far she's making a lot of opportunities happen, is Cooling. Providing a lot of opportunities. Just booting the ball forwards. Managing to find one of her teammates. And it's always been somewhat of an attacking opportunity. Ambo to give it a boot. Off. Tried to get a header off was Westland. And she wants 2 goals on the board here in this match, but she's going to have to wait a little bit longer. Misha Westland, she had 1 goal last week against Heidelberg United in the match of the round, and so far she's got 1 here today as well. She also had 2 goals in their round 2 thumping over FV Academy, which resulted in a 7-2 victory. This is actually South Melbourne's first game back from a 2-game little road trip that they had. They haven't played back at home since that round 2 win, and here they are back in round 5. So the success from what happened in that round 2 7-2 victory against FV Academy thus far, it seems to have stayed here. Byrne, who also had a goal last week against Heidelberg United. Can she get one this time out? Have to wait and see. Still plenty of football left to play. Hopefully everyone is enjoying this matchup at home. Another reminder, this is only the entree, the co-main event here. The main event is still to come later on at 5 p.m. South Melbourne taking on Heidelberg United in a very, very anticipated derby match. The South Melbourne men's squad haven't had their most desirable season compared to last year. How are they going to go against Heidelberg United? Again, you're not going to want to miss out on that match either. However, all our focus is here at the moment. There's a 1-0 lead for South Melbourne. The top of the table taking on the bottom of the table. Brunswick Juventus 11th on the table compared to South Melbourne, who are right up the top. Yet to taste a loss this season. They only had the 1 draw, which came back in round 1 with a 1-1 draw to Bentley Greens. And ever since then, well, it has been smooth sailing from them. Head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. I mean, they proved why in The opening couple minutes booting in a goal from well outside the box. That is going to be a highlight reel for Michelle Westland. She's going to look back on this season, and if she thinks of goals, she's definitely going to remember this one. And we've got another free kick. Woodward to give it a boot. To the direction of Mackenzie. Mackenzie, she's still got it. Going to give another boot as well from beyond the box. Couple shots here of desperation for Brunswick Juventus. South Melbourne, who are locking them up right now. Their defense just proving why they are so strong. I want to look ahead to some previous results that have happened over the weekend. There's been a big weekend of football. It was Bentley Greens, who drew with Spring Hills 2-2. Essendon Royals, they had a 1-0 victory over FC Bulleen. And let's actually put that to a pause because we might have an opportunity here from Mummy Ambo, who was inside, off to Eliadis. Sorry, Furukawa, my apologies. Bomford, who gave it a boot, couldn't quite succeed. She's still in the box, got it. She's going to give it a little toe poke through to Raquel Delaris. She was close. In South Melbourne, a lot of these kicks that they're having, they're close, but they just aren't quite close enough. Anyway, back ahead to the previous results. On Friday, it was Bentley Greens and Spring Hills who had a 2-2 draw. Then on Saturday, which was yesterday, Essendon Royals had a 1-0 victory over FC Bulleen. Alamein and Heidelberg, they had a 1-1 draw, second and third on the ladder respectively, and that ended up in a draw. FV Academy also got a draw against Box Hill United, 2-2. And then Boroondara Carey Eagles, they had a 2-0 victory over the Preston Lions at the Veneto Club. And this is the last matchup in the NPL women's sides. And just not sure what's going on here. A little bit of a pause in play at the moment, ladies and gentlemen. So we're having a bit of a pause in play here, folks. Not really sure what's happening. I've never really experienced or seen anything like this happen before. Hopefully everything around the ground is alright. Hopefully all the patrons and spectators are fine. So a small little pause in the match there. Not really sure what happened there, folks. My apologies for not providing the best update. Never really had one of these happen. Maybe there could have possibly been something to do with maybe Courtney Van Dyson's earpiece connection maybe or something. I'm not really too sure, but we're about to get resumption of play underway here at Lakeside Stadium. It'll be Chia to throw it in. So we're back up and running here at Lakeside Stadium after that short little pause in play, the little halt. And the kick went straight into the chest of Byrne. And Eliadis now for South Melbourne. Just going to halt the proceedings of play here, and that ball will be out of play. We might have an opportunity. Delaris, who's stuck in all the traffic in the world, and we got a free kick here for South Melbourne. They're going to go quickly. Furukawa, now Westland, forwards of the target. She's going to look to cross it in. She's got numbers inside the box. It's punched away by Woodward, and it's Butler who just retreats the ball out. But instead it'll be South Melbourne who are going to give it another crack. Santu this time, and she's got it! Misha Santu! My goodness! Akeisha Santu with a goal from the heavens. And they're just making them fall at the moment. Is South Melbourne from beyond the box. And just like that, a 2-0 lead for South Melbourne. And that is 2 goals for South Melbourne that have happened from well outside the box. And how about that for South Melbourne? It can't get any better than that. Whatever they're kicking at the moment is turning to gold. It was the first goal from Westland. She booted from well outside the box. And that time it's Sandu. And that's one way to really put yourself into this game. That's her second goal of the season. And what a way to come. Westland with a first. Sandu with a second. My goodness. Just like that, a 2-0 lead for South Melbourne. Just proving why they are the beneficiary and the benchmark of this NPL women's competition. Santu on cue, forwards to Bomford. Bomford got the ball up in the air. She's going to try to keep it alive. She's got Cheer there for company, the captain of Brunswick. Here's Ambo. Ambo going to kick it forwards to Delaris. Here's Ambo, gives it a boot. And that was close, and they've got a bunch of opportunities right now with South Melbourne. And you can definitely tell that they've really settled into this game. Approaching the halfway minute mark, or sorry, I should say approaching 30 minutes into this half. And they are absolutely rolling on all cylinders like a fine, well-oiled machine at the moment here. And they're proving why they are such a strong, solid team. Here's Mackenzie. Forwards. Tried to go to Ramel. This time it's Ramel. She's got Butler for company, but she couldn't. She lost the ball. Santu again. Proving why she's such a strong defender. Ambo. Here she is. Kick it off inside to Eliadis. Tried to chip it forwards to Delaris. The connection between Eliadis and Raquel Delaris proving why it is so strong. They've connected on so many occasions this season. They're definitely a duo to watch out for. Here's Butler with Sandu for company. She's in a bit of a South Melbourne sandwich there. And it'll be South Melbourne's ball. Elias forwards to Delaris. And instead it'll be Cheer in the back line of Brunswick Juventus. Woodward to give it a boot forwards. Tried to go into the direction of Anastasia Ramel, and instead it was Cooling, who's got the sleeves rolled up actually out there. Trying to get a bit of a tan on her arms, who manages to walk away with that possession. Byrne. They're slowly rolling forwards here. Really finding a good passage of play here is South Melbourne. They're all the way on that far side. Furukawa off to Delaris. Trying to kick it forwards to Westland. I think there was a little bit of a traffic jam in the middle there, so she couldn't get the kick off through enough. Eliada's putting a lot of pressure on Peyton Wood, the goalkeeper. They did that last week as well. Was South Melbourne put a lot of pressure on the goalkeeper of Heidelberg. Booted forwards. Was into the direction of Ambo. Ambo, who got the header on it, but couldn't quite control it off. South Melbourne, as I did mention, they are a very, very experienced side. 5 players who had previously played in the Women's A-League competition, including their goalkeeper, Esposito, my apologies. Compared to only Brunswick Juventus, they haven't really got much experience. Brunswick Juventus actually the second youngest team in the competition, the youngest obviously being FV Academy. But Brunswick Juventus, about the median age of about 21 years old in that team. FV Academy about 18 years old. So, again, the experience is going to lack for them, but they will gain it through playing sides like this who are far more experienced, who have really played for a very long time, and who are really strong players. And it is South Melbourne proving why they are so strong. The experience, 5 players played in the A-League, and others have played in other competitions around the world. South Melbourne, they've really put together a really, really strong team. It's going to be really tough to try and knock them off this season. Here's Eliadis. Through ball, tried to go off to Bomford. Bomford only just about keeps possession. We're going to go back and retreat off to Eliadis. Eliadis tried to go forwards to Iamano, the captain, who was creeping up all the way from defence. And it'll be Peyton Woodward's ball for Brunswick Juventus. South Melbourne, they are the 5-time women's NPL champions. Their last championship came back in 2023, only 2 years ago. And their last championship before that came back in 2017. Can South Melbourne go all the way? It's still early days, but the way that this squad's shaping up, I think they might possibly have an argument as to why they can go all the way. However, compared to this Brunswick Juventus squad, they are 2-time champions. There are only 2 champions way back in 1996 and 1997, back when they were called the Brunswick Zebras. So, a bit of historical information for you. This is the 5th meeting between these 2 sides. Their last encounter ended up in the only draw of their head-to-head series. It is South Melbourne who leads the head-to-head, 3 wins to 0. Brunswick Juventus yet to get a win against South Melbourne. Last year, the first matchup that these 2 teams played, it was South Melbourne who got the win 3-2, and then the very last encounter that ended up in a draw was actually here at Lakeside Stadium in round 22 of the competition that year. At the moment, though, might be South Melbourne walking away with a 4-0 head-to-head comparison against Brunswick Juventus. A 2-0 lead for them. Both their goals have come from well outside the box. Very, very impressive showing out here for South Melbourne thus far. Sandu. The kick wasn't best timed there, actually, from Byrne. Amber tried to keep it in, and it will be Brunswick Juventus' ball. And she had to throw it in. Here's Byrne to give it a boot in the direction of Olivia Bomford. There was a mistimed control there from Kerr. Bomford's going all the way. Ball went straight into the legs of Peyton Woodward. That could have been another opportunity. I think Olivia Bomford wanted to try and nutmeg her coming forwards, but instead, Woodward managed to just lower the hips down and stop the ball and stop a possible 3-0 lead for South Melbourne. So South Melbourne to throw it in. Here's Delaris, who's got Kerr for company. And this time it'll be Brunswick Juventus' ball. Thanks once again for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen at home, and spending your Saturday with us. Nothing better than watching a bit of football here on your Sunday afternoon. And these 2 teams, they are going to show up again. Still got the main event to come here later on at 5 p.m, the Derby. Or the Derby, actually. Let's hold on to that thought, actually, as Delaris is inside. She actually slipped a little bit there on the grass. Tried to get a penalty from the referee, but the referee saw that one clearly. Ambo going to kick it forwards. Tried to centre it for Westland, who tried to get Two on the board, but couldn't. It'll be Peyton Woodward's ball, the goalkeeper of Brunswick Juventus. Another quick reminder as well, still the main event to come. This is the entree, main course, the derby between South Melbourne and Heidelberg United. That should be an absolute cracker. If I was you, I wouldn't leave your sofa, because it's going to be a pretty good clash. Here is South Melbourne, forwards to Furukawa on that far side, and it'll be Brunswick Juventus' ball. South Melbourne, who have maintained quite a fair bit of the possession in this one. Haven't found an answer for him yet, has Brunswick Juventus. Just lagging behind the competition they are. However, again, they are a very young squad, so as the season progresses, I have no doubts that they will amp it up in their season. There's a little bit of a stuff up there from Cooling. She waited a little bit too long to kick the ball off. It was Rexep who came all the way up to her and tried to snag the ball off her. And here we have Shishoda marching forwards off to Ramel. This might be an opportunity here for Brunswick. Ramel, who's trapped on that far side, off to Shishido. Nainami Shishido. They're being trapped at the moment, Brunswick Juventus, on that far side. Can't seem to cross the ball in. Francesca Iamano, the captain of South Melbourne, doing a great job in stopping Shishido from trying to cross the ball in. She's going to be one to watch out for in the defence for South Melbourne. Very strong player, she is. She also spent some time in the Melbourne Victory A-League team. Had a small stint there. She was on an injury replacement contract at her time there in 2021 to 2022. There was an opportunity there, slowly charging forwards for South Melbourne. Westland trying to keep it alive. And it's going to be Grima who's going to go down. And another free kick coming for Brunswick Juventus. Speaking of Francesca Iamano as well, played 9 games for Western United as well, the A-League side. Ended up playing 9 games for them and then joined South Melbourne in 2023. She's been here ever since. Played 14 games in 2023 and last year played 21 and had a goal in her season as well. Going to be one to watch out for. A big name she is. Ambo. Kick it forwards. Off to Bomford, who's well past Chia. She's going to try and cross it forwards to Delaris, who was marching forwards. Couldn't quite manage to get there. Here's Ramel, who's quickly stopped in her tracks by Eliadis. Manages to snag the ball. Smith. Furukawa. Smith, she still gets it. Grima now. She's got Westland for company. Manages to keep the ball alive and instead Cooling with the rolled up sleeves is just going to retrieve the ball back off to Esposito. Grima. Give it a boot forwards. Tried to go forwards to Ramel, but couldn't. Ball's kicked forwards to Mummy Ambo from Eliadis. Here's Sandu coming forwards now. She had the most recent goal she did from about 10 metres away from that spot where she's standing. It was only a little bit closer. Still can't believe that went in. I myself was shocked, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I wasn't able to say anything. You don't often see goals occur from well outside the area. Only managed to sneak in as well, so 2 big-time goals for South Melbourne. First one was from Westland, second one from Sandu, both from distance. That's one way to begin their proceedings in their first half here. It's a 2-0 lead for South Melbourne, the 5th encounter between these two sides And so far, it's looking to be going the way of South Melbourne, just like the previous 3 wins that they've had. A possible 4th could be lurking for them. Ball's booted forwards. Tried to go to Ambo. Ambo manages to get it. Lucky with the bounce. Stops, and she's just going to retreat back to Westland. Bomford. Now off to Westland. Westland to give it a chip up. And not quite. Bomford and Westland just connecting there with each other. Bomford had a shot. I reckon if that was Westland, though, she probably would have gone for a shot there. Almost in the exact same spot where she scored her goal in the opening minute. The next clash between these two sides will be in round 16 on Saturday the 16th of July at 3 p.m. That one will be at Brunswick Juventus' home ground at CB Smith Reserve. And if the way things stand at the moment, I think Brunswick Juventus will want to go into that clash to try and get a win over South Melbourne. They have not been able to walk away the victors in their clashes. South Melbourne have had their number. Here's Olivia Bomford, tried to give it a kick. Mackenzie managed to deflect it well. She's still got the ball. Off to Westland this time. Westland, she's got options forwards, but outnumbered is the South Melbourne offense to the Brunswick Juventus defense. Eliadis. Forwards, Westland. Back off, gives it a boot. It's Francesca Yamano! That was close from the captain, the former A-League women's player who played for Melbourne Victory and Western United. That would have been a miraculous goal, and that would have been 3 goals from well outside the box for South Melbourne. They've definitely got a spark running in this game. So far, Brunswick Juventus, they're doing a little bit better than Heidelberg United did last week. Heidelberg conceded 3 goals in the opening 16 minutes to South Melbourne. That game was virtually over at that 16-minute mark, and it was South Melbourne who walked away with 5 goals to their name at the completion of full time in that clash. Here's Eliadis with a nice through ball from Nikki Furukawa, who's had 5 goals so far, Nikki Furukawa, in her season. What can she provide? She had 2 goals in their 7-2 victory against FV Academy and 2 goals against Olympic Village as well, along with 1 goal in their 3-0 victory against Alamein. South Melbourne, such a strong team overall. However, don't discount Brunswick Juventus, especially as the later on stages of the season start to progress. A very young team. They're definitely going to get better with experience and time. So maybe not this season, but if they keep on ploughing away with the results that they're going to slowly have and gain all the experience in the world, they're definitely going to be a team to watch out for in the coming years, that's for sure. All the players gathering here on this near side of the ground, waiting for Woodward's kick. We are approaching half-time here at Lakeside Stadium. Ambo kicked forwards. Sorry, it was headed forwards, my apologies, by Shishido. And the ball is just going to be kicked out of play in South Melbourne's ball. Here's Sandu. Going to retreat back. Esposito in goal. And they're just going to slowly reset a little bit here, South Melbourne, and look for another attacking opportunity. Little slip up there from South Melbourne. Brunswick Juventus, they got a little bit excited, but then they slipped up the ball back as well. So a little bit flimsy here in the latter stages of this first half. Here's Iamano charging forwards. Looks to kick it off to Westland, and does. Westland close to the spot where she kicked her first goal in the opening minute. Going to retreat back off to Furukawa. Back off again to Westland. Westland going to retreat back again to Francesca Yamano. He's going to give it a boot forwards. Bomford. They're just trapped over there so far, South Melbourne, on that far side. Brunswick Juventus doing a beautiful job in preventing that goal from happening. is Sandu now. Ball just been worked around here so far slowly. Ball tried to go forwards with Furukawa to Eliadis, tried to link up. Bomford. Still got it. Westland back off again to Bomford. Connecting well, are they? Forwards tried to go, was Bomford with the kick. Tried to go to the direction of Raquel Delaris. And instead, South Melbourne just going to retreat slowly in this one. Burn. Kick it forwards. Tried to go to Furukawa. Delaris directly under it. Controls it with her chest well. Instead it's Mackenzie for Brunswick Juventus. Putting up a bit of a fight. Mackenzie. She was everywhere last week in last week's encounter against FV Academy for Brunswick Juventus. So far she's been a little bit quiet here today. What can she provide in this matchup as we slowly come to the end of this first half? Sandu. Back off to Iamano. Iamano forwards to Bomford. Tried to go forwards to the Laras. And that one's just going to be stopped. Still 30 degrees here as well at Lakeside Stadium. And that is going to be the whistle for half-time. The 2-0 lead for South Melbourne as we go into half-time. They maintained a lot of the possession in that first half. The first goal came in the opening minutes of the game. Flawless from Westland. Absolutely let one rip. And then it was Santu as well from distance as well who let one go. Half-time here at Lakeside Stadium. South Melbourne 2, Brunswick Juventus 0. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Lakeside Stadium, the iconic Lakeside Stadium, home to South Melbourne. We're getting ready for second half action to get underway. It is South Melbourne who went into the half with a 2-0 lead, one goal shy of their 3-0 lead that they had last week in the match of the round against Heidelberg United. This time, a 2-0 lead against the bottom of the table, Brunswick Juventus. They have had 2 goals from well outside distance, and they were very, very surprising. Not often you get kicks that are from well outside the box, and boy, did they let them rip. The first one was from Westland. She absolutely let it rip, was Misha Westland. She kicked the first goal and her 5th goal for the season. And then the second one came by Akisha Sand, who absolutely laced one from well outside the box. I don't think she even intended it to be a goal, but instead, nevertheless, it was a goal. And after that first half, it was South Melbourne who had the 2 goals and Brunswick Juventus with the 0. South Melbourne actually had 12 shots, 3 shots that were on target, 4 shots for Brunswick Juventus, and all 4 of those ended up being on target. Only the 1 corner in that first half, which went South Melbourne's way, and 2 offsides for South Melbourne as well, and 3 fouls went the way of Brunswick Juventus. 0 yellow cards were handed out as well in that first half. Will we see any happening in this second half? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. So, second half action is underway here at Lakeside. Glad you could be with us here, spending your Sunday afternoon with us. There is nothing better than spending a bit of your Sunday afternoon watching a bit of football, and especially competitive football at that, because this side out here, South Melbourne, they're going to be one to watch out for the remainder of the season. As I mentioned in the first half, South Melbourne, a very experienced squad out there. They have 5 players who used to play for the Women's A-League competition. So a very experienced squad, which is proving to be why they are on top of the table, having gotten 3 wins and only the 1 draw. They've had the 1 draw back in round 1, which was a 1-1 draw with the Bentley Greens. And ever since then, well, they've been on a tear, winning 3 of their past 4 games. They had the 7-2 victory last time out when they were at Lakeside Stadium against FV Academy, the youngest team out there in the competition. And a bit of an interesting call there. Corny Van Dyson didn't call, I believe. It might have been a handball there by Chia of Brunswick Juventus, but a no call there from Corny Van Dyson, our referee. And then it was a round 3 victory for South Melbourne against Alamein. And then last week, a 5-1 victory in the match of the round against Heidelberg United. They closed that game out. 3 goals they kicked in the first 16 minutes of the game. The game was virtually over before it had even begun. They kicked a goal as well from about 2 minutes into the game. They did one better this time. They kicked their first goal in the first minute. That one was in the second minute of the game. So they're one-upping each other. Here is South Melbourne. What can they provide in this second half for us? Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the co-main event of this afternoon. Still one more matchup here to go at Lakeside Stadium. It's a double-header here today. The women's are up first, and then it will be the South Melbourne men taking on Heidelberg United in the derby in what should be a cracker of a matchup. You're not going to want to miss it. So make sure you sit back on your sofa, grab a drink or a snack. Should be a good one. I know I'll be here watching it, hopefully, if I don't get kicked out. But I suggest you do as well. This is still round 5 as well of the women's season. Early days so far in the competition. Ball just being tossed around a little bit here in the opening proceedings of this matchup. Compared to the women's, only round 5 for the men's. It is round 10 in their season, so still plenty of football left to play for both of these two competitions. Bridie Cooling just not deciding to kick it, kind of baiting Rexepi to come close, and then she turns around and then kicks it. Waited for Rexepi to push up all the way. Here's Grima, though. The left back for Brunswick Juventus just lost that ball to Eliadis. Eliadis and Nikki Furukawa. A good linking duo as well, along too with Eliadis and Delaris. Raquel Delaris, the striker at the moment for South Melbourne. Linking up well are both of those women. Here is Delaris on cue. Tried to chip it up a little bit forwards to Bomford. And instead, they're just going to try and look for another opportunity. Delaris again. Tried to make something happen from it. It's Smith, though, to kick it away. It'll be towards the back line. Raquel Delaris actually spent 2 seasons, 2022 and a little bit of 2024, playing for Western United's A-League women's squad. So another experienced player as well. She was actually injured in her first stint with Western United, so didn't get to play at all. And she joined South Melbourne at the beginning of this year. Spent some time as well in 2022 and 2023 playing for Calder United. Very experienced player. She's played 98 games in the women's NPL. Booted a total of 35 goals in her career in the NPL. So far this season, she's hasn't gotten a goal yet. So she's goalless at the moment, and I'm sure she'll be hungry to get a goal in her season, to really kickstart her season as well. Get a bit of confidence going for herself as well. Ball on that far side. Chia forwards. Try to go to Butler. Said it was intercepted quickly. And here's Delaris again on cue. Forwards to Furukawa, who's inside the box. She had Grima for company. Ball's in a retreat back out to Mummy Ambo now. Forwards is chipped up. Try to cross it in. Here's an opportunity for South Melbourne. And a very, very close one at that for Olivia Bomford. She's gotten close on a number of occasions this afternoon. And she can't make that one happen. However, boy, was she close. It's been a number of opportunities, actually, for South Melbourne, where they've taken a couple shots, and a couple of them they should have been in my opinion. Scoreline should be about 4-0, if anything, with the amount of shots that they've taken that have been extremely close. One, actually, in the first half, that was kicked and went and hit the side post. And that one as well was beyond distance. So South Melbourne today, for some reason, they are finding their range from beyond distance. The ball is up and it was punched away by Peyton Woodward. And Mackenzie to kick it away out of harm's danger. It's just going to be booted up in the air. Butler was there to try and grab the possession of that one. And it will be Santu to kick it out in the direction of Ambo. So far, Brunswick Juventus yet to create some real attacking pressure and to put some attacking pressure on South Melbourne. Ball's booted forwards into the direction of Eliadis. They're just going to slow down here is South Melbourne. Francesca Iamano. She was close as well. Had an absolute ripper of a strike in that first half. I thought it was going to go in. Just scraped across the face of goal. Here she is actually on cue, Francesca Iamano, to chip it in forwards. Furukawa! How about that for Nikki Furukawa? Her 6th goal of the season, and she's the leading scorer in the NPL women's season.
Number 16, Nikki Furukawa.
And that's one way to put her name on the scoreboard. A 3-0 lead for South Melbourne, and it comes via a header from Nikki Furukawa. The experienced Canadian who played at the University of Calgary Played 24 games there. Played a little bit at the University of Lethbridge as well in Canada. Played a little bit in New Zealand for Waterside Karori in the National Women's League. Ended up booting 6 goals there. She actually led her team to an unbeaten season and a qualification in the National League in 2024. She's joined South Melbourne this year and she's making a massive impact. And you can tell that is 1 goal for her that she's had in her past 4 games that she's had, including this one. Nikki Furukawa. Boy, is she good. And she has got the league on notice right now. Here's Ramel inside. And there is a free kick coming the way of Brunswick Juventus. So a free kick coming up here for Brunswick Juventus. What can they try and muster up after that goal from Nikki Furukawa? What a goal that was. The beautiful cross from Francesca Iamano and Nikki Furukawa with the finish. Picture perfect, and that one is going to leave a mark on Brunswick Juventus. 3-0. And Brunswick Juventus are in very, very familiar territory like they have been in the past 3 games that they've lost to South Melbourne. This time, though, their 4th, or so actually this is their 5th encounter, but so far the way it's looking, it might be South Melbourne's 4th win, and it will be 4 times that they've been in a similar position against Brunswick Juventus, where they haven't been able to close back up, and a crossbar kick actually from Anastasia Ramel, and possibly the closest opportunity you could have had for Brunswick Juventus. And they're starting to fire a little bit here with some confidence right now. They're definitely going to need, especially after being down 3-0, a real confidence killer is the scoreline to look at. However, they have to remain level-headed here in order to try and get some goals on the board. They don't want to go out here with a clean sheet loss. They want to try and get something happening. Ball is up for the corner for Brunswick Juventus. Ball's up, and it was very, very close there. And I believe it was Layla Butler who might have gotten the kickoff. And another close one for Brunswick Juventus. This is good signs if you are a Brunswick Juventus fan. They are starting to find their groove a little bit in this one. At this rate, I think a goal might be a realistic goal for Brunswick Juventus to aim for. Ball's booted forwards from Byrne. And that was a massive, massive bump there from Mummy Ambo straight into the captain of Chia for Brunswick Juventus. And here's Peyton Woodward now. Just looking to try and open up this South Melbourne defense. South Melbourne putting a lot of pressure right now. Wherever the ball is at the moment, wherever Brunswick Juventus are, South Melbourne are closing in on everywhere you can think of. Look at this. Right there, a kick from Rex Heppy, and it was 3 players all around her with Bomford, Westland, and Eliadis just closing right up around Rex Heppy. So this is how South Melbourne are so strong, just really closing out all the room that Brunswick Juventus have, and they're just proving to be the superior side out here at the moment here at Lakeside. Beautiful conditions out here as well, might I add. We started off today with a top of 30 degrees. And right now, we're sat still at 30 degrees, so not much happening at the moment. Another reminder, this is just the entree. The main event is yet to come at 5 p.m. The derby match between Heidelberg United and South Melbourne. A mouth-watering clash. I'm definitely not going to want to miss out for that one, but at the moment, though, getting a very tasty entree from the women that are turning it up. Another opportunity could have happened there for South Melbourne. A very, very close one. What an attacking opportunity there from, I believe it might have been Olivia Bomford. And instead it will be South Melbourne who are just going to retreat back, and it was Olivia Bomford. What a shot from her at the moment. Peyton Woodward, she's got her head on a swivel right now, looking to try and fend off that goal from any balls going into the net. Here's Butler trying to march forwards here is Olivia Butler. Finds Rexhappy. Rexhappy couldn't even have any time to think about getting the ball kicked to anyone else, as she had that ball snagged off her by the South Melbourne captain, Francesca Iamano. And the ball will be out of play. And it'll be South Melbourne's ball. Glad you could be with us again here, spending your Sunday afternoon here with us at Lakeside Stadium, watching on the NPL Victoria YouTube channel. A massive weekend it was for both the men's and the women's. Having a look at all the previous scores that happened over the weekend on Friday. Bentley Greens had a 2-2 draw with Spring Hills at home at Kingston Heath Soccer Complex. On Saturday, yesterday, Essendon Royals got a 1-0 victory over FC Bulleen Lions across Keys Reserve. Alamein and Heidelberg, they drew at Dorothy Laver West Reserve. That was 1-1. FV Academy, they also got a draw, 2-2 against Box Hill United at the home of the Matildas. And it was a 2-0 victory for the Boroondara Carry Eagles against the Preston Lions at the Veneto Club. This is the last match of round 5 here in the NPL women's season. These two teams, they're going to face off against each other in round 16 on Saturday, the 16th of July at 3 p.m. at Brunswick Juventus' home ground at CB Smith Reserve. And the way that things are looking, they're going to want to go into their home ground looking to try and get their first win against South Melbourne in their series of encounters that they've had. This is their 5th encounter, and they're still seeking a win against South Melbourne. The best they've had came last year. The last game of the series between them came in round 22 of August last year, where it was a 1-1 draw. Happened here at Lakeside. Earlier that season, it was South Melbourne who got a 3-2 victory. At the moment, South Melbourne are on 3 goals. What can Brunswick Juventus muster up? That was a close one. And Layla Butler puts her mark into this game, is Layla Butler. And that's one way to get Brunswick Juventus firing in this one. Her first goal of the season, and it comes at a beautiful, beautiful header. And just like that, the first goal for Brunswick Juventus. And it comes via Layla Butler. She and Brunswick Juventus are all going to love that. She was etching for one, Layla Butler, throughout this game. She's been etching for quite a while, actually, in all the matches previously that she's played. And here she is, making her name for herself here in this competition. And rightfully so. And that is a great reward for her, for all the hard work that she's put in. Trying to get a goal especially. That one is going to be great confidence boost for her and for Brunswick Juventus as well. The worst ranked offense gets a small, slight jab against South Melbourne. But here is South Melbourne looking to go on the attack. Ambo forwards, tried to get it off to Sand, who was actually in there. She's looking for a second goal today. And instead it'll be Brunswick Juventus now who'll try and start pushing back a little bit. She's got the wheels now here. As I believe it might have been Layla Butler, and was again. It was actually Sienna Coppola. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Sienna Coppola, she's actually had a quiet game today. Last week she was up and about against FV Academy. Today, she's been held at bay quite a bit by this South Melbourne team. South Melbourne have really shut her down. And here she is on cue, Sienna, trying to get involved in the contest. Smith still has the possession of the ball here. Smith going to go down the line, off to Rexhappy. She's got Byrne for company. And instead Byrne will kick it all the way back off to Esposito in goal for South Melbourne. She's going to kick it off to Bridie Cooling. Bridie Cooling as well. She was actually born in Tasmania. She began her career part of Box Hill United in the youth programs. Actually spent a bit of time coaching the youth sides as well there. And she previously played for South Hobart in Tasmania. Also did a little bit of coaching there as well. She played in the Women's Super League down there in Hobart. She was actually the longest serving player, part of South Hobart, down there in the NPL in Tasmania. She played 22 games for Box Hill last year. And here she is now for South Melbourne. Here's an attacking opportunity, and what a save there from Peyton Woodward. That is a really, really good save. A beautiful diving save there. And stopping any bit of attack from South Melbourne and a possible 4-1 scoreline. What a save. Just threw her body out there. And that's what you call doing it for your team. She's loving her out there, giving a bit of a thumbs up to her teammates. And this will be South Melbourne's ball on this near side. So a couple substitutions checking into this game for South Melbourne. So 3 substitutions coming in for South Melbourne. One will be Olivia Edwards, who will be coming into this one. The other one will be Dragana Kljajic. And then the other player, I'm just waiting for her to get a bit of confirmation. Wasn't really paying attention to the referee signal that came up to the referee board. So my apologies out there, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Edwards actually trying to get something to happen. And it is actually going to be going to try and get a proper actual finding for the player that just came on. And it is correction. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sophie Papatasanis who has come on. So apologies about that. I think I read the number a little bit wrong. So human error there. So apologies, folks, out there. I'll take that one. Here we go. Another corner coming up here for Brunswick Juventus. This time it'll be Mackenzie to take this one on that far side. Just gonna get the ball sent up. Ball's up in the air. Couldn't quite get a lace of it. Chia is going to give it a kick, and it goes well over the bar. And another opportunity gone for Brunswick Juventus. So a couple fresh legs out there for South Melbourne. Sophie Papatasanis, Olivia Edwards, and Dragana Kljajic are out there for them. What could they muster up here is actually Shishido coming forwards. Ball still loose. And that was another close one there for Brunswick Juventus. And they're closing in slowly on a possible goal here and trying to get 2 goals next to their name in this second half. And that's going to be the one to put a bit of pressure on South Melbourne, actually, who have been comfortably out in the lead, sailing out in front with 3 goals. That'll try and put them a little bit on alert, actually. So South Melbourne clearly have to be wary of Brunswick Juventus. Brunswick Juventus, they're down, but they're certainly not out, and they're showing signs of it. Here's Mackenzie trying to close in. That mistimed kick, which didn't go to Eliadis. Here's Dragana Kljajic. Burn. And back off to the captain, Iamano. Kljajic again. She's got Grima for company. Tried to give it off and center it forwards to Furukawa, and instead is going to be Byrne to chase the ball all the way into the back line and just slow down the pace here for South Melbourne. Byrne to give it a boot forwards to Bomford, and it's Westland instead, who's just going to retreat back off to Edwards. Yeah, we might have a opportunity here for South Melbourne, actually. It's Sandu pushing up all the way forwards, not giving it an inch at the moment. Here's Bomford, who's got Chia directly in front of her. Going to go back to Eliadis. The ball just intercepted and kicked away, and it'll still be South Melbourne's ball here. And not sure what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, this occurred in the first half, believe it or not, where there was a bit of a pause in play. Not sure what it's about, to be exactly honest with you. Weren't able to identify what happened in the first half when this happened. So we're just going to have a bit of a stoppage in play here at the moment. Our apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Normally, this kind of stuff doesn't really happen, but still I haven't really experienced anything like this before, so this is the second time it's happened in one game. So apologies for not having any information for this, ladies and gentlemen at home. So I think we should be ready to go. Again, once again, apologies about that, ladies and gentlemen, with the zero understanding I know about that. Not sure what that's all about, but hey, we can't get it all right, so here we are. Just going to wait for the resumption of play here at Lakeside. Well, we look ahead, South Melbourne's next game. They're going to take on Box Hill on Friday the 25th of April at 7:30 p.m. actually at Wembley Park. And Brunswick Juventus, their next game will be at home. They're going to take on Heidelberg United on Saturday the 26th of April at 3 p.m. at CB Smith Reserve. So nevertheless, resumption of play is back up and underway. There's Westland, who's got this one. I'm going to kick it off to Papatasanis, who's also been subbed into this game. Started off on the bench last game as well. She did this time as well. Here is Furukawa, who had the last goal for South Melbourne. Kljajic to centre it forwards, tried to go up to Sandhu. Sandhu got right up there, rose like a phoenix. Instead, she couldn't quite get up high enough. Bomford back off to Westland. Back off again to Bomford. They got the connection out there. Papatasanis going to cross it up in, and it'll be Kerr to header it away. Edwards is in a bit of a tussle there with Sienna Coppola. Edwards this time with a kick up of her own, and it was very close for Edwards. Peyton Woodward, she's having her work cut out for her out there. Two good saves in this second half. First one was a diving one. This one, if she didn't get up there enough, that was going to be an almost certain goal. And another one, the third one from distance for South Melbourne. This will be Brunswick Juventus' ball. Peyton Woodward, who spent 2022 and 2023 playing at Villanova College, and very close actually to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania in the US. Grew up at Fayetteville Bulldogs. She played at several schools, including the University of Arkansas, before moving to Villanova, which, as I mentioned, is close to Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. She ended up playing in 2024 last year in Iceland, believe it or not. I don't want to butcher the name, but she ended up playing in Iceland, and then she joined Brunswick Juventus at the start of this season. She's only played the 4 games for them, made the start in all 4 of their games, including this one, so that's the 5. A wealth of experience out there as well. Grew up playing in the college system over there in America. And here she is now in Australia. There was a nice little touch from Furukawa off the Kljajic. Back off again to Furukawa. She's got all the space in the world. She's inside the box and across it in. Tried to get it off to Edwards. My apologies, Westland, but it couldn't quite. It's going to be booted again. Is Eliadis. Ball's up in the air, and Peyton Woodward again stopping it. And another opportunity for South Melbourne there. And they're really starting to put a lot of pressure here on Brunswick Juventus. And here, this might be something for Juventus, actually. It was a nice little kick from Butler off to Coppola. Coppola, who's had a very quiet game so far here today. Iamano, the captain, off to Furukawa. Had the last goal. It was a badly kicked ball. It was Smith who managed to get possession of it, but instead it's South Melbourne who regained possession of this one. And just possession being slipped up here between the two sides. It goes South Melbourne, then Brunswick, now back off to South Melbourne. And here is Misha Westland, who had the first goal of this game. Came in the first minute mark, believe it or not. You're going to have to re-watch that game yourself. You have to re-watch that goal, actually, ladies and gentlemen, yourself. An unbelievable goal to start off this one. Kicked it from well distance. Here's Coppola, back off to Rexepi. Rexepi going to kick it up. Forwards after to Sienna Coppola. And it'll be South Melbourne to just start pushing up forwards now with this. Byrne off to Sandu. Sandu, who started off in the left back position, now started to push up forwards, playing in the left wing. There's Bomford. Bomford just tried to hand it off to Sandu, and instead it'll be all the way back off to the goalkeeper, Peyton Woodward. One of the biggest talking points, and one that I really wanted to investigate going into this match, is who can really step up for Brunswick Juventus when they need it most. A lot of their players are, again, very young. And what matters most, when it matters most, actually, who rise to the occasion? So far, Layla Butler rose to the occasion, getting their only goal for South Melbourne. Sorry, for Brunswick Juventus, my apologies. Who can step up when it matters most for Brunswick Juventus? Obviously, understandable that a lot of their players are very young. The second youngest team out there in the competition, the youngest being FV Academy. So still a lot of experience for them to gain playing at the highest level. And they are playing against a team who is at the moment soaring through all their competition right now. Had a win, a 3-0 victory in round 3 against Alamein, who's second on the table, and then last week in the match of the round, a 5-1 victory against Heidelberg United. Brunswick Juventus' only win, that came last week, a 3-0 convincing victory against FV Academy. Kleitsch. Westland in the middle, going to retreat back off to Edwards. And here's Byrne. Alana Byrne, who's made the start in all 4 of South Melbourne's games thus far. And here might be an opportunity. It was a well-timed kick from Bomford, but it wasn't a well-timed kick run from Eliadis. Here's Rexepi, going to cross it all the way in the direction of Coppola. It's Butler who's going to manage to maintain possession for Brunswick Juventus. Shishoda tried to kick it forwards off to Grima. Was unsuccessful in doing so, though. And here's Bomford now walking away with the possession. Player down. Nikki Furukawa with Shishido. And Francesca Iamano. She's going the whole length of the pitch at the moment. Papatassanis making the run to try and keep the ball alive on that far side, but couldn't. And we got another substitution coming in, this time for Brunswick Juventus. The first substitution, Ondi Guimara, will be coming on into this game for Layla Butler. So making her substitution into this one is Ondi Guimara. Sorry, apologies, correction, no. Natasha Colosimo will be coming onto this one. Here is Sandu along with Chia. Ball just going to be crossed in. All the way up inside. Furukawa tried to give it another header. And not quite. Would have been a second header and a possible goal there as well. The second one in the game. But she couldn't quite make it happen this time. She had 2 goals in their round 2 7-2 victory. Their 7-2 thumping, actually, over FV Academy. And she had 2 goals last week against Heidelberg United. I'm sure she'll want another one. She only had the one last week against... She only had the one, sorry, last week. The week before, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen. The week before against Alamein. Last week she had the 2. Got a mouthful of words at the moment, so apologies for that, folks. The heat's getting to me out here. Still 30 degrees out here. Not sure how the players are coping out there. McCowan, who's been quiet as well today for Brunswick Juventus. Last week, she was involved in a lot of plays to try and stop the FV attack from coming in. This week, though, hasn't had much possession time whatsoever. Here's Westland. Just going to retreat back. She had Shishido all over her, so she wasn't going to be able to get anywhere at the moment. This time, though, it's Brunswick Juventus that are starting to put some defensive pressure back on South Melbourne. South Melbourne just pressuring around the back. Here's Eliadis. 2 players there straight away on Eliadis. Eliadis has been a major, major impact for South Melbourne joining at the beginning of this season. A strong defender in the midfield. Fleich trying to keep it alive, and he's going to be booted away by McCowan. So we've got another substitution coming in here as well for this one. It'll be Nathalie Chia coming out, the captain, for Mia Sekirski. So Mia Sekirski getting ready to check into this game for Nathalie Chia, the captain. And instead, the captain's armband will be replaced and will be handed off to Dania McKenzie, who's one of the star players for Brunswick Juventus. Had an absolute field day last week. Was everywhere you could think of in their match against FV Academy today. She's been there, but she's also been quiet in moments as well. Here's an opportunity for Olivia Bomford! Over the crossbar. And another opportunity there for South Melbourne. Wide open was Olivia Bomford. Possibly thought she had a defender closer to her, so she probably had to let her rip a little bit quicker than what she thought. She had all the space in the world there. And Peyton Woodward, she's lucky with that one. And a missed time kick actually from Peyton Woodward. Here's Olivia Bomford again off the Furukawa. She's still got a Furukawa turnaround kick. And another missed opportunity for South Melbourne. And boy, are they getting some really nice looks on goal right now. And it can't come any better as they desperately need one. Because in this half, actually, it has been Brunswick Juventus that started off really guns blazing. They have calmed down a little bit, but South Melbourne, they really want to get this win on the board as well and keep their winning streak alive. This win could extend them out to 4 wins in a row. Here is Furukawa again, who had the last goal that made it 3. She's got Greener for company. Both number 16s going to try and turn around, cross it in to Olivia Bomford. Boy, are they connecting well, are Olivia Bomford and Nikki Furukawa. Olivia Bomford, she's sitting on 2 goals right now this year, in this season. I'm sure she wants a 3rd next to her name. It's Furukawa, though, who's leading the scoring list at the moment in the NPL women's competition. She's got 6. And look at this pressure right here. Furukawa and Bomford putting all the pressure on Navleen Kerr. And another goalkeeper's kick here for Peyton Woodward. And we've got another substitution coming in. This time, however, it'll be for South Melbourne. So Francesca Iamano will be coming off. So it'll be her day done and dusted, along too with Eliadis. Both those two women who made a big impact today in this game. Out they come for the squad. And a brand new set of legs coming out there for South Melbourne as well. It'll be Jessica Sheehan who will be out there for South Melbourne. Along too with Catherine Mule. So Catherine Mule making her first start for South Melbourne. I haven't seen her play and haven't seen her in the previous lineup, so this is definitely a debut for her, at least, of what I'm aware of. Don't hold me to it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Papatassanis. Going to find Sheehan. And already the first touches of the ball is Sheehan. Along too with Mule, who had it only moments ago. Edwards going to go all the way back to the goalkeeper. So we've got about 6 minutes left and additional time as well here at Lakeside to conclude things as we slowly come to the end of play here between this encounter between South Melbourne and Brunswick Juventus. Top of the table, South Melbourne taking on bottom of the table, Brunswick Juventus, and it has been South Melbourne straight from the get-go. They've had their number. Here we've got a cross in. Tried to go to Furukawa there, but couldn't. This is the co-main event here at Lakeside Stadium. Still have one more game to go. It'll be South Melbourne taking on Heidelberg United. The derby coming here to Lakeside Stadium. That should be a very, very interesting matchup. You're not going to want to go anywhere. There's a possible opportunity there for Sienna Coppola inside the box. So make sure to grab a snack or a beverage of any sort. Sit back on your sofa. That match will be kicked off at 5 p.m. And you're going to want to make sure not to miss it. However, our mind is still focused here on this matchup between these two as we close towards the completion of full time. It will most likely be South Melbourne walking away with the win. They've walked away 3 times previously with the win against Brunswick Juventus. This is their 5th meeting between the two sides. South Melbourne's biggest win against Brunswick Juventus came back in 2022. They had a 5-1 thumping. At the moment, it is 3-1 for South Melbourne, which could mark their 4th win against Brunswick Juventus. They've only had the 1 draw these two teams have, and that came last year in round 22. It actually happened right here at Lakeside. Score was 1-1 at the completion of full time there, and this time round it will be vastly different. This time, though, in favour, most likely, to South Melbourne. Fleitch off to Santu on that far side, trying to work it forwards, and again ball goes straight into the hands of Woodward. Getting a stop there was the Brunswick Juventus goalkeeper and Woodward. And we got Greener down there on the play with Furukawa. A good showing as well out there on that far side, on the right back position, is Natasha Colosimo, who managed to stop Santu's line of attack just then. And Brunswick Juventus, they're just creeping up slowly here. I'm sure they would love another goal here in this matchup. As I mentioned in the first half, South Melbourne, they took out the defending champions last week in the match of the round. And right now, the way that things stand, South Melbourne, well, you can put a very clear argument that they are the favourites to take out the championship here in 2025. But it's still early days to be talking about championship. But I think they have a very, very good argument as to why they are the favourites leading the race to be the victors. Such a well-developed squad that they've put together during the off-season. A vast vast amount of experience out there on the pitch. 5 players, as I mentioned, played in the A-League, including their striker, Raquel Dolares, who's still seeking her first goal actually in the season, which I have no doubt is going to come at some point this season, the way if she keeps playing. So it will be out of play, and Brunswick Juventus' ball on that far side. Once again, glad you could be with us here, ladies and gentlemen, spending your afternoon with us here at Lakeside Stadium, the iconic Lakeside Stadium, with the Oceania team of the century being South Melbourne. Ball's up, and it'll be out of play, and this time South Melbourne's ball. The next clash between these two sides, Saturday the 16th of July on round 16 at 3 p.m. That one will be at CB Smith Reserve at Brunswick Juventus' home game. Home ground, I should say. And the way the things stand, they're definitely going to go in hunting for a victory. Because after today, they might be down 4-0 in the head-to-head between South Melbourne. And a bit of a slippage in play there directly in the middle. It was from Mule, and South Melbourne are just on the back heels a little bit here so far, slightly. Brunswick Juventus, they had a chance to attack. And it's Esposito waiting for the last possible chance to hold on to the ball, as Mackenzie was pushing right up to her. As we close in to the completion of regular time, we're going to wait and see what the additional time is, and 5 minutes of additional time left in this bout between these two squads. And the way that things stand, it could be South Melbourne walking away with the 3 points and remaining on top of the table. South Melbourne's next game, it'll be next Friday against Box Hill at Wembley Park at 7:30 p.m. Brunswick Juventus' next game will be against Heidelberg United. That one will be on Saturday, the 26th of April at 3 p.m. at their home ground, CB Smith Reserve. Here is Shishodo. And all the way back off to the goalkeeper. And once again, playing a bit of games there with Mackenzie, waiting to lift up the ball. The last time these two met, back in round 22, it was South Melbourne with 15 shots, and 5 of them ended up being on target. Last time, for Brunswick, they had 13 shots, 8 of them ended up on target. So, vastly different set of conditions for both sides this time out. And the ball just going to retreat all the way back to the goalkeeper of Peyton Woodward, who's had quite a bit of the ball so far this afternoon. Going to give it a boot all the way in the direction of Mackenzie. She was under the ball, couldn't quite get it headed. Colosimo's there as well. Charging forwards, trying to keep it alive is Sienna Coppola, and she won't be able to. Sienna Coppola, she began her career part of the Calder United youth program, spent 4 years there. She re-signed for a second season with Brunswick Juventus. She played 9 games for the black and white outfit last year. And so far has had a bit of a quiet game today. She's only had the 1 goal this year so far. And I'm sure she'd love another one. Speaking of her, right on cue, there she is. Going to throw it in this time. No, she's not going to hand it off to her teammate to throw it in. The ball just trapped on that far side. They're just going to slow the tempo down. And this time South Melbourne to throw it in. Brunswick Juventus this time. with the throw-in to Mackenzie. Mackenzie trying to keep it alive. Edwards coming all the way out of nowhere with a massive boot, sending it out of play this time. It's still got it. Here's Coppola now, charging forwards. What can she make do? And she can't quite. It's going to hit the side of the netting. And it'll be a corner coming up for Brunswick Juventus. So what can they make do here from this corner is Brunswick Juventus. The ball is up. They'd love another goal, I'm sure. And that one is going to be sent away off to Shishoto. Sent in again and couldn't quite make anything of that time, Brunswick. And as we slowly come towards the end of additional time here, we'll just wait on Courtney Van Dyson to ring the whistle. Ball just going to be kicked around in the back line. Going to give it a boot is Alana Byrne. Gives a falcon straight to the face of Grima. That's the last thing she'll want after today's clash. Very physical encounter for her that she's had with Nikki Furukawa. Nikki Furukawa, Canadian descent she's got. Here's Bomford. Try to kick it off to Mule. Shishido off to Mackenzie. Tried to kick it off, was Mackenzie off to Shishido. And now, could it be one last roll of the dice here for South Melbourne? Furukawa. Going to clear it out. Onto that far side to Kljajic. Here's Sandu. Started off in the left back position. Now she's playing up in the winger position. Couldn't quite kick it to anybody. And that is going to be full time here at Lakeside Stadium. South Melbourne get the win 3-1 against Brunswick Juventus after a very, very one-sided affair here this afternoon. It was South Melbourne in their 5th meeting against Brunswick Juventus that are going to snag the 3 points and remain the top team of the table. And that is going to be their 4th win in a row in this season so far. And for Brunswick Juventus, it is still searching for them. Their 4th loss so far this season, only the one which came last week. They're going to have to keep on waiting for that 2nd win for them. However, the fairy tale and underdog story couldn't live here today at Lakeside. At the completion of play, it is South Melbourne 3, Brunswick Juventus 1. Glad you could be with us here, ladies and gentlemen. Plenty more action here to come at Lakeside at 5 p.m. kickoff in about an hour's time. The South Melbourne men's squad is going to take on Heidelberg United in the derby of all derbies. Make sure to tune in for that one. But from Stefan Georgic, thank you so much for your company, and so long from Lakeside.